right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college basketball, and it's March Madness. It's the tournament time. It's the best time of the year, my favorite time of the year. So grab those Shamrock Shakes, drink that green beer, do whatever else you want to do, because it's March and basketball is here. And I'm joined by my co-host, the man who discovered that he can hold a tree in his hand. Yes, it's a palm tree. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Hey, when you live in Florida, palm trees are here. That's what it's all about. Seth, I'm doing great. I'm watching conference basketball tournaments right now. A few of them wrapping up the small mid-majors, and you just get that fever continues to build and build till Selection Sunday.
Yeah, I'm just so jacked up. I mean, we've been recording a couple of college basketball things, and well, as much as I love college football, and I do, I love the entire season of college football. Nothing gets me excited for a 3-week period like the tournament. I've been starting to do my deep dive into the different teams here, looking at who, we do a bracket that's a little bit different. We're going to go into that here in a moment. But I've been starting to do my deep dive into teams, and the more and more I look at these teams, the more I'm thinking that this is going to be an exciting tournament. It's going to be a tournament of parity. The outcoming champion of this tournament this year may not be one of the teams that you're used to hearing.
I mean, parity, I think, is exactly is a perfect way to look at this because the Big 12 has been an absolutely amazing conference all year long. The worst team in the league, Oklahoma, could beat Kansas on a night, and the league has been back and forth battling all season long. You look at the SEC, Kentucky and Tennessee have both been up and down all year long. If the two of them get in the right situation, they could take out anybody they want. The ACC has been kind of the weak league. Everyone thinks basketball, ACC, basketball, ACC. Well, Carolina's on the bubble. Duke hasn't really been their normal Duke self, even though they have a pretty good year. But Miami and Clemson are, two of the 4 seeds in the tournament. It's gonna be a crazy year. The Big Ten will do what it always does, but look for the oddballs coming from middle of nowhere and making a splash.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we even dive into any of this today, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the Spinnable Sports channel, hit that notification bell because you're going to want help with your brackets. We're going to drop a episode probably the day after the brackets come out. We're going to help you get through your brackets, whether you're doing a pool, whether you're doing a hostile takeover, whether you're doing squares, whatever way you're doing. We're going to try to give you our advice. We've been doing this for a while with the tournament. There's a couple of key ways to look at. So make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, and make sure you're visiting spinnablesports.com because we're going to keep pumping out the articles out there. So it's definitely a place with all different free material for you guys. It is 100% free. Doesn't cost you a thing. No subscription, no monthly charges, nothing like that. Make sure you subscribe along with us.
Yeah, subscribe, follow us on social media. But you said something funny there, Seth. Hostile takeover. What's the hostile takeover?
So we've been doing this for a while here, folks, and every year it is I talk to different people about the way you do a bracket pool. And there's, the traditional way where you just kind of pick all the teams of the 64 teams and you roll through, and whoever gets the most amount of games right wins the bracket. It's the easiest way to do it. Then, there's other ones that do points in different rounds. So like the first round might be worth 1 point, second round 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, so on and so forth. You give points for upsets and stuff like that. But what we've done is maybe the best way to do a March Madness bracket. Now, I'll still fill out a bracket. I usually still fill 2 or 3 of them out and see how I'm going to do in just picking the teams. But a hostile takeover is playing against the point spread. Now, the first thing you're going to need when doing a hostile takeover is you're going to need a multiple of 4 people, a minimum, to do it. Guys, if there's 4 of you throwing in some money for this, it's not going to be as fun with it if you're doing this with your buddies here. So I'd recommend getting at least 8, maybe if you can get 16 in there as well. But the idea is that you're going to draft teams as like you would do like fantasy football. You're going to do we do a snake draft. So we'll start off, and whoever gets the first pick, we're going to go through 16 picks. The person who has the 16th pick is going to get the 17th pick, and you're going to go back through until all 64 slots are taken up. And we do not draft play-in teams. we wind up drafting the playing game. So whoever you get coming out of that game, that's going to be the team you get starting out at 64. But the idea is that you're going to play against the point spread. So for an example here, let's say we're looking at a first round matchup of Kansas versus Cleveland State. Now let's say for an example, I have Kansas and Fresh has Cleveland State, or maybe vice versa. That might work a little bit better. But coming into that, let's say Cleveland State is a 29.5 point underdog in that opening round. In that first round of the tournament, you're going to see, especially at those 116 games, 215 games, you're going to see some really large point spreads. You're talking about anywhere from, I think, a minimum you'll see maybe a 16 point spread in the 215 games to anywhere up into the 30s in those 116 games. If Cleveland State if I have Cleveland State and Cleveland State only loses by 29 points, I take over Fresh's team in the second round. So I would get Kansas going into the second round, and I now need to play against the point spread all the way up until the championship game. And so it's a really fun way to do it. It's something we've been doing. Gosh, Fresh, this has got to be, I think the first one,
I think we're about 18 years now with everyone from at least from the core of us since about '05 maybe.
it's the first Gators championship.
Oh, '06, '06. So we are on year 17 then.
Yeah, year 17. Well, technically 16 because we lost the 1 year with COVID.
Oh,
Um,
well, yeah. Good point.
but we've been doing this for a long time, ever since we were in college. I will tell you this: it is the most fun that you'll ever have watching a tournament. It makes your games very exciting, especially late in the ball game when you're going against the point spread. A team could be, your team could be up 10 with a minute and a half left to go, and hey, that's just who I picked. But if the point spread's 12 and a half, now I'm really cheering for either some fouls or the game to get turned around. Maybe, if it's a close game and I need a 5 point spread or 5.5, maybe I'm cheering for overtime as well. But if there's a push always goes to the favorite in that situation there as well. So make sure, you guys, if you have any questions, check it out. Give us a holler. Hit us up on social media. But we run a hostile takeover every single year, and it's a whole heck of a lot of fun.
I mean, some of the most tense moments is like that 10:30, 10:45 tip on late Thursday night, the last game, of the day, or on Friday night. You've been going through 12 hours of basketball, and it's come down to this, and it's a 1 or 2 point, differential going either way, and you're sweating for free throws to either make sure you cover or keep that spread in your favor. And it's intense. You got random guys coming out there. Everyone's making a difference, whether it's fouls, timeouts, how the game plays out. It means every point matters. And it keeps someone. It's like, oh, you got Kansas, or you have one of the stud teams in that year's tournament where you're kind of like you feel deflated. Well, everybody has a chance, and you don't have to know basketball per se. You kind of have a gut instinct and see what the spreads are, and just sort of let it play out. I mean, nobody expected UMBC to beat Virginia, much less deal with this point spread there. That's what all matters. And if you pull off the upset, you keep carrying it on yourself. So it's funny, and it's a good banter between everybody. And there's always someone who gets 4 teams playing on Thursday, and they're knocked out before Friday morning.
Yeah, it's the worst thing that you can have happen is being out after that first weekend. We used to call it the curse of the hostile takeover. I used to be out. I think it was like 5 or 6 years in a row that I was out on the opening weekend, and it was miserable because I would pick teams. I've changed my strategy over the years, and I've changed how I kind of approach things. Watch, I'll be out the first weekend this year. With that being said, but each year, you kind of tweak what you're doing here as well. And it's something that's really, really fun. Like I said, you watch it in a different light, especially if you're doing with a group of friends. I would say a minimum of 8. Everyone gets 8 teams. You can do it randomized where everyone only gets 2 teams per bracket area, and you can really separate them. So, like, if I got the one team, I might get the 6 team in the or the 11 team in the other end. You can figure out a way to kind of manage it all together, or everyone gets the top. If you get the 1 seed, then you get the 15 seed. If you get a 2 seed, you get a 16 seed, something like that. You can work it out however you want to. But like I said, fun, have blast with it. we've done it, and I don't think I'll do a bracket. I won't do a serious bracket pool any other way.
So Seth, you talk about strategy. Do you? We have a 16 team league, so it's 4 teams a person. Do you try to pin them off one in each region, or do you try to funnel where 2 and 3 to maybe guide yourself, where you set up maybe a couple ways down the road in the Sweet 16 Elite Eight and try to hope your teams eventually match up? Like, how do you sort of guide yourself through?
I always take best team available. So I have a system that I've utilized over the course of the years. And again, like I said, I've tweaked it over the years. So I started out where I wouldn't get past the first weekend. And then now it's kind of changed where I've routinely, out of 16 teams, if everything went chalk, everyone would have one team after the first weekend. Problem being, that doesn't really happen a whole lot. So usually you'll have someone with maybe 3 teams in the Sweet 16. Maybe you'll have 2 teams or one team or be completely out. One of the things I look at first is I want to play from the favorite position most of the time. My later round picks, I'm going to look at the point spread there, but I want to play at a favorite position with a decent point spread. And I also want to look at who maybe my second round matchup is going to be. So I might look at if I'm sitting there at a top 4 pick, I am going to take a bite at one of the top 4 teams in the tournament, maybe top 8 teams. I might look at the 1 or the 2 line there as well. I'm going to take a look at the point spreads there, how it has teams done offensively, how they rate defensively, and is it I'm looking for a balanced team, a team that is really good offensively and really good defensively, so that they can cover that big point spread early on. Occasionally in the tournament, I think it happens every 3 or 4 years, you'll see a team that will cover straight through. They'll either cover from the 1 spot, the 2 spot, or the 3 spot. In those situations, you're looking for teams that have a consistently solid offensive firepower. They haven't had an off game. They've played a challenging schedule throughout the year. They played at a Power 5 school as well. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes you get a Cinderella, and you ride Cinderella as the underdog there. I'm always looking for the favorite, just because in years past I've found that the favorite wins slightly more. And they slightly cover the point spread a little bit more, not enough to really hey, always take the favorite. It's not to that level, but I find that the favorite wins a touch more than the underdog does. So I usually am. My first 2 picks are definitely someone that is playing from the favorite position.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, you kind of want to find a team that has that dominance because, like you said, offense matters in covering the spread, hitting who can shoot, who has shooters that are consistent, who has played tough schedules and had to win tight games. Because as you get down the road after that first round, those point spreads get real tight. 3, 4.5, 2.5. You've got to have a team that has sustainability, team that has been through the grinder a lot and can get down there, make their free throws when it matters, hit a 3, play defense in the back end to be able to cover and also get the W. You hate that half point, loss, which is it blows. You've got to find teams that have quality down the road that you truly trust too. You're not just rolling out there, and you can't waste your first 2 picks. If your first 2 picks don't hit, you're really just basing off of luck the rest of the way that you can somehow, like you said, find that point that team that breaks the spread, or you find the Cinderella who makes the run.
Yeah, absolutely. Like right now, if I'm looking at the top 8 seeds at this moment, according to CBS right now is saying Alabama, Houston, Purdue, and Kansas are the 1 seeds. The 2 seeds are K-State, Texas, Marquette, and UCLA. If I'm looking at those seeds right now, my first pick would probably, if I had the number 1 overall pick, I'd be leaning towards a team like UCLA. Solid offensive team, really solid defensive team. I'm looking at a top team around there, but I'm also looking at a team that can really stifle another one, especially in that first round. And again, it's a mid-major. They're 29-2. That Houston team, it's a great offense, great defense as well. But you take a look at team like Kansas State. Kansas State's offense is decent, but their defense it's a little more lopsided in that realm as well. So Kansas State might be someone who I'd take a long look at in there. But an interesting one to me would also be Marquette. I would be very curious with Marquette. Now, I'm not going to sit here and go through this, and you notice that I'm leaving a couple of the teams out. People go, why don't you pick Purdue? This is another thing, folks. You wind up getting burned by a team. I've had Purdue has looked really good on paper for like 5 years in a row. I've had them probably for 3 out of those 5 years. Guess what? I haven't won with Purdue. I haven't
You
even
know who
taken
they
over.
you know who they remind me of? Who was the in the 2021 the tournament in Indy, the player of the year, the forward for Iowa.
Oh, I can't remember his name.
But everything ran through him. He had some decent guard play, but everything ran through him in Iowa. Had a great run, and they were supposed to make a Final Four run that year, and they bombed out in the tournament. Edey, it just feels like in Big Ten play, if you've ever watched college basketball or know the Big Ten, they're defensive heavy, they're half court, game. It's a point guard. It's the five down low. Very slow pace overall for the most part. And Edey fits that. You put him in the tournament. How can he run and play down low and keep up the pace and stay out of foul trouble for the 6 games in the tournament? And it scares me. It happened to Iowa and they got beat. You see a lot of big guys in lesser conferences who don't play as a fast up pace play. They get stuck in the tournament. They meet a team from the Big 12 or the SEC or the Pac 12 or the ACC, and they get beat because they cannot hustle, they can't play. And that's kind of what worries me about Purdue. Edey's been a great regular season player, but how will he actually fare in the tournament?
I'll give you another pick for me here. If I'm looking on the wraparound, I'm looking at the second round or even the third round, a team I might target. And again, I haven't done my full deep dive into these teams here, so I'm just kind of giving you off a first look at them. Would be a team like Texas A&M. That's a team that has a above average offense and above average defense. That's a team they're going to be slotted probably at the 4, 5, 6 spot in the tournament. So there is a little bit of a risk there, but also be slotted at the 4, 5, 6 spot. You could be upset, but you're also probably looking at a much smaller point spread. You're maybe looking at only a 6 or 7 point spread in that game. So you have a better shot in that realm, but again, you got to be careful looking at, if you ask me if there's a team I would stay away from, um, taking a look at this is it's a tough one here. If I'm looking at a top tier team, San Diego State scares me a little bit, and if I was looking at maybe Boise State too. I don't really love what I'm seeing off of them. But again, I haven't done my full deep dive. In a week from now, I could tell you that they're going to make a run.
I mean, the Mountain West has had a great year. Utah State and Nevada right there on the bubble. Two of them get in along the two you just mentioned. That's a four solid from a mid-major, lesser school conference. Houston, you mentioned them earlier. I'm not totally sold on them. They have a strength of schedule in the hundreds. Who have they struggled. They should have lost to Memphis last game of the year. Are they really truly worthy of a number one seed, or they play much lesser competition and build up that record? I'm not saying they're horrible. But I don't think they're number one seed in my opinion. I think it's gonna hurt them in this tournament. Um, when you look at the ACC, some other teams outside the normal, I mentioned Miami and Clemson. I think Miami has a great shot. They made that run last year. Clemson's that fringe team where they had a great start and they sort of tapered off since then. They're the 4th seed in the ACC tournament. How will they able to keep going? Them and Pitt have kind of been back and forth. I only think we're going to get 4 teams out of the ACC into the tournament. Maybe 5. That 15 could be North Carolina or Pitt, whoever makes a deeper run in the tournament. The one team I think is going to make a great deep run is from the Big Ten, and that's Indiana. Indiana has put together a great resume. They have played fantastic all year long. Quietly, Mike Woodson has put together a program there and got them back on track. They've competed with Purdue. They've beaten Illinois when they've had to, and they are going to be a sneaky team. I don't want to play Indiana if I'm facing them in the tournament. And Rutgers and Penn State, two other Big Ten teams to keep an eye out for. But anyone from the Big 12, I really have no issues with anyone in the Big 12 right now. They're all battle tested. They've played against each other all year. If you find someone from the Big 12, regardless of what that point spread is, you're going to get a good close ball game at it. They're going to play defense like Seth had mentioned earlier. So be mindful of that. The Pac-12, very, very, very weak league. The worst of the Power Five conferences this season, hands down, without a doubt. But they had two of the best teams in the league, in the country, in Arizona and UCLA. So try to find your happy medium there. If Arizona State does get in, um, maybe a fringe team, but that league, you're going to see two teams very, very elite compared to a very bad league coming out of that and representing the Pac-12.
So let me kind of jump onto what you were saying here, Fresh. Let me give you a sleeper team coming out of the Pac-12, and that's the USC Trojans here. They have in the tournament, guard play is important. They have two senior guards right now, Boogie Ellis and Drew Peterson. Drew Peterson's a 6'9 guard. He's a matchup nightmare in this league, especially going to the tournament. He's averaging 14 points a game. You take a look at Boogie Ellis, he's averaging 18.1 points a game right now. Guard play is huge in the tournament. When it comes down to it, if you got good guard play, I know people want to, talk about, this great center or what have you. It's going to go the guards. I'm going to be interested to see who USC matches up in the first round. Going to what you were saying too, Fresh, and let me go back to that Miami team. Same thing I'm going to say about Miami. They're battle tested. They made a nice run last year. People forget how deep of a tournament run Miami made last year. And they have two really good guards in Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller. But the one thing I like about Miami, because I started working on them right now, they have lost 5 games. They lost by 18 points. They lost 6 games total right now, but they lost by 18 points on November 20th to Maryland. Since then, in those 5 games, those 5 other games, they have lost by a grand total of 14 points. This is a team that is going to play everyone very, very close there with the Hurricanes. That's another team I really like. Out of the Big Ten, my favorite team right now, and again, I'm working on this. I am staying away from Purdue. Purdue has broken my heart too many times. They're an ex-girlfriend. I don't like them. I don't call them. I don't text them. I don't do Irish car bombs and text them. I don't do anything like that. Purdue, I'm staying away from you this year. Now watch, I'm going to wind up picking them up in the first round or something like that. But the Penn State Nittany Lions, projected 11 seed, one of the top offenses in the Big Ten. They're shooting 39% from behind the arc. The three is huge when it comes to a tournament. If they get hot, watch out. And the thing I like about Penn State is they take care of the basketball. Only 9 turnovers a game right now. Big. I'm expecting Penn State to win a game in the tournament here. I'm not expecting them to just be like. I know that they have them right now in the playing game, I think,
Yeah,
but
they're the bubble team in the play at this point. But if they make a nice run in the Big Ten tournament, that could really shake it up, build an even stronger resume.
yeah. So I really like Penn State there coming out of the Big Ten. And that's another interesting one.
It's it's funny how we talk about the Big East and how it used to be so fantastic, and some of those teams actually went to the ACC. But you kind of look at, you mentioned Marquette. Don't don't sleep on Xavier and UConn. Um, I've still been trying to debate who of those two is actually the better team and who would be my, who's a 3 or a 4 seed fringe right there. I think both of them are going to be, they're both going to be top 4 seeds in top 16, but who actually takes that bump to get that 3 seed spot and who's the 4? But those two teams, lights out, strong defensively, great guard play, and it's quiet because Big East, everyone sort of thinks, all right, Villanova's been gone for a while. Jay Wright's retired. They're not what they used to be. Georgetown's been terrible. Marquette's been fantastic, but it's a 1-year wonder so far. For Shaka Smart and his really return to in the beginning of Marquette. But UConn, Xavier have been there for a while. They've sort of been treading water, and I got a feeling one of them is going to make a nice little splash in the tournament and really make a serious run.
Yeah. So according to CBS right now, UConn, there's another team I'm interested in, especially Jordan Hawkins over there, is matched up against the number 14 Toledo Rockets out of the MAC. Now, I think Toledo's going to have to win the MAC to get in, but they could get in as an athlete. They could. Toledo has not lost since January 10th. since playing Kent State. January 10th, they haven't lost. They have 5 contributors who are shooting over 40% from three. They have 5 guys who are shooting more than 40% from behind the arc right now. That would be
that's lights out.
Yeah, that would be a real if we get UConn versus Toledo in the first round there. Come on, man. That's I don't know if I'd pick in that game, but I'm definitely tuning in on that game.
It's one of those games where you kind of wish Jimmer Fredette would come back for one, just have Toledo versus him, just jacking up threes from everywhere.
But wasn't Jimmer Fredette on BYU?
Yeah, but just have him come back and play against them. Have
Oh,
both
okay.
teams just jack it up threes like nobody's business.
Make 50, take about 53s during a game.
Yeah, I mean he would shoot like 100, they would shoot 100, and it'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I would definitely take a long look at where Toledo gets matched up, who winds up getting them. Same thing. I like the UConn pick, man, out of the Big East. Xavier, solid school as well. Great basketball program, great basketball tradition over there at Xavier as well. Interesting one, 2 seed, Kansas State. I know I mentioned them a little bit earlier, though. Keontae Johnson, absolutely amazing. Almost 18 points a game, 7 rebounds, shooting over 40% from three. But he also runs with Marquise Noel, 17 points a game. He's averaging 7.7 assists. That sounds like that combination right there can win you a couple of games to at least should get you into Sweet 16. Only concerning with Kansas State, 8 losses on the year, and 7 out of those 8 losses have come from away from Manhattan, Kansas. That concerns me a little bit because the whole tournament is on the road. Like you aren't sleeping in your own bed. And Kansas State is going to right now projected to be playing the first round in Denver, Colorado. So we'll see
The
there.
Octagon's a safe place for K State. And if you guys are wondering about Keontae Johnson and that name sounds familiar, it's part. Like, I thought you were actually leading to it, but he is the guy for Florida who had the heart condition in 2020 and collapsed on the court. Um, did not play. The health professionals at Florida kept him out. He didn't transfer to K State this year. It actually was the first time he really got back and actually practiced and played. So seeing his return from where he was a couple of years ago, going through all that, getting his health right, and then playing with confidence and now dominating and feeling comfortable has really given this team a lot of life. And I think given him life. If you watch every single game he's played, he just gets better and better, find his confidence level, and really driving that K State program. Now, Seth, I have a question. I have a question for you before because we are in conference tournament time right now as well. NCAA tournament, you get 2 games in a weekend every other day. You get a week off, you get 2 games every other day, and then you get the Final Four if you're that lucky every other day. So you have a day off in between. Conference tournament, you're in competition. You've played them all year long, but you have to play every single day and win to keep moving on. What is actually tougher, making a run every single day playing in the conference tournament or making a run from the very beginning all the way to the national championship game in the NCAA tournament?
I think the harder thing is going to be making a run in the NCAA tournament here. And I go back to years ago, I want to say it was 06 or 05, and Syracuse wins 5 games in 5 days to make the NCAA tournament. And then they get boat raced by, I want to say Vermont in the opening round, or maybe it was Manhattan, someone like that. Someone will correct me and tell me who it was.
I
But
think it was Vermont. They both were green, so at least we're on the right path there.
yeah. So and a lot of the things is that whoever Syracuse was matched up with, like I'm not saying that those guys didn't play hard. I didn't say that they didn't try, but Syracuse was motivated. Like if they're a desperate team, they're a talented team, but desperate team. They know that they have to win those 5 games in 5 days, even just to get to the dance. The problem is that you wind up shooting all your shots in that point, and you're exhausted. God forbid you wind up as an 11 seed at the playing game. If I win 5 games in 5 days, I win my conference tournament on Saturday night. Let's say I'm early. I'm Saturday night, and now Selection Sunday's in there. I now have less than 48 hours to get ready for my first round matchup there. I now have to pour over some tape. I'm going to Dayton, Ohio. I'm going to play in the first 4 right there. That's a challenge right there. And at least if I'm going into the NCAA tournament, I get the idea of where I'm going to go to. Plus, my second round opponent, I get to see them play in person. I get to see little things I do. I'm basically, the whole team is scouting that team. It's not just watching the tape. It's not just getting a report of what they did. I also think that in the NCAA tournament, it gets way tougher the deeper you go into the tournament. People are better. There's just better teams. This is the best teams in America here. So when I get to the Sweet 16, if I'm Cinderella here and I'm running my way through around the ball here, I'm waiting for the glass slipper to finally break on me. It's going to happen somewhere in that Sweet 16 or the Elite Eight. I mean, you occasionally have like a George Mason or a VCU type of ordeal there. Gonzaga way back in the day before Gonzaga was what we know them today as. But you look at these things here, Fresh, and I think it's definitely harder to do it in the tournament than it is during the conference tournaments.
I think you made a great point there about, other teams maybe not giving full efforts because, hey, if you already know you're in the NCAA tournament and you're really not going to adjust where your seed range is going to be, if you're going to be a 3 or a 4 seed, are you really giving 110% in that ballgame? Because you know you have life after that. A team that's desperate is going to leave everything out there. And league play, you've already played everybody once, twice. You know the same formulas. You played against the guys for years in some cases. You have that understanding of what they're going to throw at you. And you play with adrenaline. You know what you're seeing on a night-to-night basis. It makes that run a little easier. The tournament, like you said, you don't really know who you're playing until that day of. You have a day to prepare, but it's completely brand new and rare. You're playing with someone you've never even met before. You have no idea really what they are, but you do have a break to sort of gather yourself and recuperate, and focus, and move forward.
Yeah. All right, Fresh. Well, before we wrap up here, I'll ask you this: if you had to, before we even know the field, know the matchups, and we're gonna redo this when the bracket actually comes out. Give me your champion and give me somebody that people might not think will make a run in the tournament if they make it.
I'm going to roll my champion. We're going to go back to back. Kansas Jayhawks are going to get it. They have 15 quad one wins, which is the most in the nation. And they're going to add to it and make a run in the Big 12 tournament. They're going to win the national championship in the NCAA tournament. They're going to turn it back to back. I got to have a strong feeling that team is loaded once again, and they're going to make another run. The team that I think could make a run that is unheralded, I'm going to stick with what I said earlier. Indiana Hoosiers are going to make a nice run. I'm saying Elite Eight for the Hoosiers.
Yeah. Looking at this here, Fresh, part of me wants to sit there and go Alabama just because of how they are on the defensive glass and limiting opponents to one shot. One of the best defensive rebounding teams in the country, if not really the best defensive rebounding team in the country. Part of me wants to lean to Alabama there, but there's still some stuff that I'm not totally sure on over there and how I feel about all of that. Yeah, I love to see UCLA. I love UCLA, how they play. I'm a UCLA fan. I'd love to see them pull it off. But I'm going to go with, let me do something a little bit different here in this go around. Let me go with a team like, I don't know, for my champion. Let me say we're gonna get a wild one. Let's go with like someone like St. Mary's. Let me go with something crazy. St.
Well,
Mary's.
they better play better than right now because I'm watching them lose by 20 to Gonzaga in the WCC championship game. You better hope they get that loss out of their system now.
Yeah, well, see, like I said, they already know that they're in. They know St. Mary's and Gonzaga's know they're in. No, I'm with you. You took my team. I was going to say Kansas. I just didn't want to say
Now,
something different. I didn't want to say the same thing as you.
I'm an interesting thing here. I'm just going to put it out there. Final Fours in Houston. Jim Nantz is calling his last Final Four ever. You know where he went to school?
I do not.
Houston.
Do you really?
Do you think the NCAA, things happen, and the Cougars play in the Final Four in Houston with him calling the game and potentially play for a national championship?
That'd be interesting, man.
I mean, we hear about NFL's rigged. If that happens, do we all say the NCAA college basketball is rigged?
Yeah,
And CBS is pulling the strings.
yeah. I think it. I think it's highly possible, man. I don't know. I'm again. If you, I went back and I took a look at this real quick here. My team that I would say to make a deep run into it, let me go like a team like Baylor. Baylor's got a really good offense there. Could get a nice matchup at the 3 or 4 spot and kind of make a run through there. So I'll just say Baylor's going to make a run. I know it's not like crazy, but
They just got their freshman guard back from injury. Had a great game on last Saturday. He's finding himself healthy, and I think he energized them in that ball game. I think he's gonna energize them moving forward.
yeah. So folks, we're gonna bring to when the brackets come out. Make sure you lock in here. We're gonna go through the bracket. We're gonna give you some picks. We're gonna tell you who we're watching, who we kind of think is going to make a nice little jump in this tournament. I'm going to be recording from Nashville, Tennessee, so we'll see how that goes over there. I'll be on the road and not in my normal studio home, so it'll be interesting.
It's a road game, Seth.
Road
Hey,
game.
defense travels. Defense travels.
And we'll see how Tennessee does. Best defense in the country. That defense is no joke.
They've had a couple clunkers though.
Yeah, their offense
the
is
Auburn
terrible.
lost twice to Kentucky, lost to Florida. It's going to see what Tennessee team shows up. That's going to be on a game-to-game basis even.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I can't wait for this tournament, Fresh. I'm excited for this here. I think we're going to have a really good time with it, and who knows, maybe one of these days we'll get to a place where we can watch some of these games and maybe do an Irish car bomb or two.
Only if you get a backdoor cover.
Only backdoor covers, folks. All right, folks, you've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're part of Spinnable Sports, so make sure you go to spinnablesports.com. Yes, that's spinnablesports.com. There's a bunch of articles over there. New stuff dropping every single day, so make sure you check it out. Give it a read. Give it it doesn't cost you anything. I'm always looking for new sports articles, so check it out. Make sure you like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Good Pods. You know what, guys? I don't know them all, but like, subscribe wherever you get them from. Leave us that 5-star review because you guys know Fresh and I, we're those 5-star prospects. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. So big shout out to him. He's part of the Hostile Takeover. We'll see how he does every single year. And our buddy from the photo finish. It's almost horse racing season. I know nothing about horse racing, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to tune in to the photo finish because I don't know what I'm looking at when I watch horse racing. If you are like me and you don't know what to do with horse racing, but you want to get into it, check out our buddy Steve-O at the photo finish. It's a great podcast. Quick. He's not as long-winded as we are, but subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell. That's it. I'm done. I don't know.
Everybody, get ready for your one shining moment. And with that, bye, y'all.